following on with basic maintenance and service tips, back here in the engine bay is your fuel water separator. It does exactly what it says it does, so it'll separate water and fuel. If you get a bad batch of fuel, you just pop this at the bottom here, it will drain water out the bottom. Now, if you have run the tank dry and gone through all 80 litres of the fuel tank here, what you want to do is, after you've topped up fuel, it still won't turn over, you're getting spark, the engine's trying to turn over, sorry. This here is your primer bulb, and on the fuel filter down here is a nut you want to crack, and then you come back here to the primer bulb, you pump that 10-15 times and just see if you get anything more than air come out. So if you get some fuel start to come out, that is when the tractor is ready and it's primed. You do that nut back up, you go to start the tractor. Just before we move on to the next topic, we do have the oil filter down here for when you do your servicing. You remove that, and right under the engine bay, the engine itself, is your sump plug right at the bottom. You drain the oil from there. Yep. So just following on with the engine side of things, before we head around to the other side, going back to the engine oil. So you've got your oil filter here, you've got the sump plug at the bottom of the engine. Over here is your dipstick for the engine oil itself, where you can check the oil level. Up here is your fill point for the engine on the top of the head. And there is an alternate fill point here, but it is much easier to. So coming around to this side of the engine bay, from top to bottom, you've got your power steering reservoir there. If after a few years of ownership, you find that the power steering starts to labor a bit, you may just need to top up with a bit of power steering fluid or replace it entirely, because it will go watery eventually, because it is a hygroscopic fluid. Next up is your air filter. That only needs to be replaced at your major service. But that being said, if you're in an extremely dusty environment, it can't hurt to pull it out, hit it with the air compressor, blow it out, so that your tractor can breathe a little bit better. Next up, you've got your alternator here, which is what charges your battery when the tractor is on and being used. So down here is your power steering pump. On the back side of this is the hydraulic pump. And right down here is your starter motor attached to the side of the flywheel. And down here is another hydraulic filter. Couple more things I'd like to show you before we wrap this video up is with the front axle. This can be done from both sides, but it is a little bit easier on this side. You remove this nut entirely. That is your fill point to the front axle. You crack this nut here on the side after you've drained out of the bottom. You start filling your fluid in from there. Once it starts to leak out of here, you know you're at the right point. Do both up and you're good to go. Now, lastly, as a safety precaution, if you need to store your tractor, let's say with the bucket overhanging something like a car or whatever else you've got in the shed, or it's going to be up for an extended period of time, you just want this ram here, which you can find both sides bolted down in this position on the chassis rail. You grab that, it only goes on one way. You slip that onto that ram, come down, you lower the arm accordingly, and you're good to go. Now, over the several years of ownership of this tractor, you will find that the free play might get reduced on this clutch pedal. Now, to reduce the chances of burning your clutch, you will need to adjust it once in a while. To get access to the turnbuckle to adjust said free play, you need to remove these side panels just held in with basic Phillips head screws. And if needed, sometimes you will just need to get a spanner and remove these panels here. There is a turnbuckle just behind this panel that you can adjust with a shifter spanner, and you're good to go.